Good morning, everyone. But not you. Everyone else. Good morning to you. It's early. It's 7:17 here on the West Coast. 10:17 over on the East Coast. If you're in the New York Times, Boston, you guys have been up for a while. You East Coasters, would you please stop with the whole we're going to start this 3 hours before you guys are ready? Just wait for us. It's rude. It'd be like going to a restaurant and you're eating while I'm still at work. Don't. Knock it off. Very, very rude. Marcy, you're 3 hours behind us too. Go back to bed. We'll start this again in 3 hours. This is Facts and Friends. Or Spilling COVFEFE, whatever you want to call it. Guys, I've been so busy the last few days. Lots of big things happening. And At Random is upset that I'm teasing you guys with that. I'm not. I'm just saying that's what's going on. Shooting a commercial today and tomorrow. No big whoop, not a big thing, not something you've heard of. So I wanted to get this time in while I can. The last few days have been nonstop, literally nonstop. And then, like, my dad's calling me for help with his online bank account. You know, like I'm supposed to do something for my father. What have my parents ever done for me? That's my question. I'm sure you all feel the same. They do, the judges too. It's like when your parents are like, oh, let's spend some time together while you're in town. You had your chance. By the way, look out if your cat's in the cradle. It's going to poop in there. You don't want the cat in the cradle. And you certainly don't want a spoon in the cradle. You want to talk about your basic choking hazards. You know what kind of things are choking hazards? This is when I had young children. It was how do I know what things are? If they taste good, hot dogs, popcorn, Cheetos, they're a choking hazard. So, you know, those of you who are about to have young children. Same thing, now that my daughter is 22. Hot dogs, I keep all of that away from her. Let's take a look at our friends over at Fox and Friends and see what we have to panic about today. How's everybody doing? What's the news? This is what did I call this? Spilling COVFEFE. So this is no big whoop. This is whatever you guys want to talk about today. We'll meander. Like I said, I don't have a lot of time. I'm waiting for a text from my dad because he still needs help with his online banking. It's in Canada, and I got to speak French, and there's a lot going on. Marcy, go back to sleep. And Sheep over in England, if that's where you are today, get ready for bed. Oh, there's... Speak of the devil, there's my dad. He says, I'm up. Let's do it now. Let's just watch... I'm going to tell him 15 minutes. And then, so we'll just figure out what we're supposed to be panicked about today by watching the beginning of Fox and Friends. Let's stop the broadcast. It's 7:21 now. We're going to stop at 7:35 or 35 past the hour, wherever you are. So if we get close to that, let me know. Hey, hi everyone. Kevin can go F himself was trending on Twitter today. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll show you guys a secret right here. Look at this. Insider. Anne Murphy stars in Kevin Can Go F Himself. I'm seeing this everywhere. I don't know if they're keying in on my name or they're just advertising en masse everywhere, but I'm seeing ads for Kevin Can Go F Himself constantly. It's like, what did I do? Oh, I wanted to do a broadcast, and then this is what my dad is advertising right now. Kevin Can Go F Himself. All right, so we'll do this for 15 minutes, kids. Let's find out what we're supposed to be hair on fire with today.
Brian was 4.
Oh, you guys can't hear that. Ha ha. Ha ha. Okay, now I just wasted a whole minute of your time. Here we go.
Right, yeah. I wasn't really invited. I didn't have a ticket.
It was great.
I'm so glad everybody got up. I also have an entry into our songs to open with, but I'm not going to share it with you now. It was just written.
Okay.
And I just think if I can get it okayed, I think it'll also be an upbeat way to start our show.
For the next hour? What do you mean?
What do you mean just written? Like
a monologue?
in the 5 o'clock
No,
hour?
it was just released, and I heard it last night. I go, what a perfect morning show song, but I don't know if we have the rights to it. I mean, do we pay?
There we go.
He sent it to me too. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's just
cute.
released.
Yeah.
Okay.
The show over again? Do we have that?
Can we
music
start
yet?
the show over
All right,
again?
so that was the
We'll
fun
work on
part.
it.
Now is the part, sadly, is our reality.
Okay, here we go. Here's our reality. Get ready to get completely panicked over what we're scared about today. Let's find out. And sometimes there's real news articles in here as well. But let's find out. What are we supposed to be concerned about? It's a new song. He's not releasing the information on what the new release is.
Oh, yeah.
And the reality is sad. Crime is surging all across the United
Show them
States of
that you
America.
looked over there at the New York Post.
Well, vote to save New York. The Post says vote for former
They're
police
endorsing
officer.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before. Right from the very beginning, I said, you said, everybody with any sense says, don't defund the police. That's not even a thing. Defund is not even a word. Stop it with this idiocy. And we have. That now cities are suddenly realizing, cities like Seattle, which I left, which is not because they were insane, but they've gone insane. New York, slashing $1 billion off the budget for social workers, from the cop budget to give to social workers. It's not that simple. I'm ballparking things here. But it's just insane. We need the police. That being said, if you pay attention to the common thread in all of these stories about shootings, is the people are using something in order to do the shootings, but we can't talk about it. And I can't remember what I was reading the stories yesterday, and it was like 57 shot in Chicago over the weekend. A family was gunned down in New York, Fort Lauderdale, Tulsa, even places with Republican mayors for some reason. The criminals, for whatever reason, don't seem to care who the mayors are, but we only hear about the ones with Democratic mayors. But there's a common thread in all of these stories about shooting, where people come out and they shoot other people with a, I had it yesterday. I can't think of it now, what the theme is behind all this violent crime committed with, is it rolling pins? What am I thinking of, guys?
This man right
Eric
here.
Adams.
Yeah, right. He's their best choice for mayor.
He used to be a police officer.
Right, for many years. Because the city is under siege. I told you.
By the way, okay, New York, great. You guys are New York. Congratulations. We have to listen to so much news about mayoral elections, etc. You guys are a national show. You guys are an international show. Same thing with CNN, same thing with MSNBC. We don't need all this coverage on the mayor of New York. I would love to have more international news. So one of the things I do is I actually subscribe to the cloud TV that bring us OAN and some other nonsense. It's $1.99 a month, and I do it so I can keep track for you guys. But they also have news from Europe. France 24, stations that cover international news. There's more going on. There's 10 to 15 minutes of news on any given day in the United States that's fresh, that's new. News. But there's all kinds of things happening in Botswana, and there's an election in Egypt, and there's some sort of plague happening in Bahrain or wherever. There's more news out there than what the American audience, I guess, is prepared to absorb. But we don't have to spend 35 minutes of an hour on the mayoral election in New York. They're just like in the primaries right now. There are several things in life that I'll go over a couple of them. I can't go over the third one because I'll get canceled. But there are things that you can be assured of. When someone has a twin, they will let you know within the first 5 seconds of any sentence. They tell, like if somebody has an identical twin, you say, "Oh, excuse me, sir, could I get the time?" They'll look at their watch and say, "Well, it's 7:27 right now." You know, funny thing, my twin bought the same watch. We never talked about it. I ran into my twin the other day, and I've got the same watch. that people have to let you know that they're a twin. Also, especially on online dating sites, the first thing people tell you is, I'm from New York. I'm a New York girl with a New York attitude. It's like, yeah, okay. Literally, mathematically, the most common place to be from in this entire country is New York. Not a big deal. And when you tell us you're from New York, or you were born in Arkansas, but you grew up in New York, that's just telling us that you adapted to become an asshole. So stop it. I'm kidding, of course. Not everyone from New York is an asshole. Some of them leave and then get rid of that whole asshole thing. You know, I go on for a while about New York. I'm a big Rangers fan, is what I'm saying. No, but when you live in a city of 12 million idiots, not everyone, there's probably 10 to 20 really good people in New York. Some of them, I assume, are good people. Donald Trump came out of New York. That's evidence enough by itself. No, I have relatives in New York. One of my best friends is from New York. Doesn't live there anymore. But no, nothing against New York personally. I haven't been there in 1,000 years. I want to go back to New York. It's just, you don't have to keep telling us, especially for West Coast. You don't have to keep telling us how much better you are because you're from New York. Also, because prices are insane on the West Coast for apartments and stuff like that, the one place you can't really shove that in their faces is New York, because their prices are beyond. I was having a little conversation with our friend Goldie the other day, talking about apartment prices here in Los Angeles and how you've got to prove that you could do 5 times the income of what so the apartment, let's say it's a 1-bedroom apartment, it costs $2,000. It's ridiculous, right? But anyway, you got to prove that you make $10,000. Who makes $10,000 and still wants to live in an apartment? At that point, $10,000 a month, $120 a year, you're buying a house, you're buying a condo, you're investing that money so that you can build wealth for the future, right? That's the idea. Buying a house in Los Angeles. You move somewhere else and you buy a house, okay? No, in New York, just applying for a 1-bedroom apartment, you need to have 10 times the income, is what Goldie said. She could have been lying. I don't know. Also applies to vegans. That is correct, Marcy. Vegans will let you know. God, it's hot out today. Yeah, it's the perfect weather for barbecuing up some tomatoes. By the way, barbecued tomatoes, pretty good. We have 5 more minutes before I have to call my dad. Let's keep moving here.
Last week, I was driving through Times Square at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Times Square. Tell us more about Times Square.
Guys, fist fighting.
Oh, yeah. There's an Elmo. There was a fist fight in Times Square. That's never happened before, Deuce.
Don't do that.
They're going after each other. They're trying to kill each other. I'm trying to get out of there. There's police officer.
If it's the fake Elmos killing each other, I want to hear about it.
Or security, Times Square security, whatever that is, just standing there watching it.
Word is,
Nobody's doing anything.
avoid Times Square, avoid the subways, especially at night.
Sounds great for tourism.
Everyone's
Welcome to
talking
New York.
about it, exactly.
Avoid Times Square.
And they're going to no longer prosecute prostitution. So essentially, prostitution is now legal in New York.
Okay, now we're talking. Concentrate on real crimes with victims and avoid prosecuting prostitution. Hello, welcome. Okay, things are getting better.
And so is pot, which everyone seems to be taking advantage of as I walk to the train every day. But look at some of these stats. It's not just New York. In Atlanta, you have homicides up 58%. You have Portland up 533%. You got Chicago's up.
By the way, Portland, an extremely safe city. Portland's a wonderful place to live. He's talking about Portland, Oregon. Homicide up 533%. Maybe there were 22 last year. Could be more. Could be 100. I don't know. But homicide is not a huge problem in Portland. If you're killed, it is. It's a huge problem. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying 500%, if 533% of whatever it is. Actually, if it's did he say 533%? Because that's 1 in 3. So we could figure out mathematically probably where we stand.
You see it, Chicago's up. They say 5%, but it's got to be
Yeah, so Tulsa's not on that list because Tulsa is going nuts. Fort Lauderdale, again, not on that list. Fresno. Pick any city with a Republican mayor. Any city of a I don't even know what you say, significant size. Any city you've heard of with a Republican mayor. Crime's going up. Homicides and shootings. What were we talking about earlier? Is it rolling pins? Anyway, it's too soon to talk about that. We have to go at least 10 minutes between a mass shooting and the next one to really have a discussion.
A lot more when you
Stockton, yeah.
look at the
Dallas, does Dallas have a Republican mayor? I'm not sure that it does. Yeah, crime's up all over the place. Yeah, you run into scarcity, you run into people with financial problems, you run into people who are out of work. It's a social problem.
shootings up 18%.
Right, but the reason Chicago is only up 5% is because it's been up so big.
They're used to this
over the
there.
last year or two.
And look at Philly, too, with their new district.
Well, who was in charge over the last year or two? Who was that? Remember Donald Trump was going to fix the crime in Chicago. Remember he sent the FBI to fix the crime in Chicago? The crime that almost always involves, I can't think of what it is. There's a commonality to all this violent crime. It's kitchen knives, right? Like butcher knives.
Attorney.
Look at New York. Look at the shootings in New York, up 64%.
Shootings. Like they're making movies? We have to cut down on the movies.
Chicago last weekend, 65 people were wounded, 10 people were killed last weekend alone. Jen
Yeah.
Psaki, the White House is saying it's not because of defunding the police. It's not because of all the protests. She says it's because
It isn't. The protests mostly nonviolent. 97% of the protests last year, no violence whatsoever.
of the gun violence. Listen.
Is there a concern at the White House that there could be an increase in crime this summer with the pandemic lifting?
No, the reason is that there's been actually a rise in crime over the last 5 years, but really the last 18 months. And so it's an opportunity for the president to speak to what
That's actually correct.
he's going to do to help address that.
Would he be approaching this a little differently than he did perhaps in '94?
A great deal of the crime we're seeing as a result of gun violence. You can
What? That's what it is. Gun violence. That is what I couldn't think of it for some reason. Anyway, we really shouldn't talk about it. That's insensitive.
expect he'll speak to that and his commitment to continuing to address gun violence and gun safety in the country. He's spoken himself to differences, things he would stand.
We should get back to watching that at some point when I don't have as much to do. We'll start covering the press conferences again if we can. Hopefully, I keep getting commercials and stuff. This is not. This is still discount days in the commercial realm. I'm doing a commercial that normally I wouldn't do because I'd say like, oh, that's too little. But desperate times. I'm not even sure what the commercial's for, quite honestly. They're just like, would you like to do a commercial? I'm like, yeah, I would. That sounds awesome. So I get to wear a hospital gown today. And speaking of hospital gowns, now I got to call my dad. No, I do have Trump's interview. I do have it. I managed to grab a copy of it, so I have to edit it down. Because as you know, we don't play entire interviews. We play snippets of interviews, and we watch those, just like we are with public commentary, creating a town square, having a political discussion for the education and edification of the masses. So that's what we do here. We use some fair use stuff. So that's all we have time for today, because now I have to go wait on hold with a Canadian bank in both French and English. Once they answer in English, after about 25 minutes, then they put you back on hold and you have to listen to French people for another 25 minutes. But to balance that out, you get healthcare in Canada. I was reading this morning about, there's a guy who tweets about cases, 32-year-old died of COVID, refused to get vaccinated, died of COVID. One guy, I want to say in Texas, got COVID in the hospital for 120 days, now owes $2 million just in hospital bills. That doesn't include the ambulance. That doesn't include the doctors. That doesn't include etc. $2 million. $2 million. At some point, it might be a good idea for the health insurance companies, and I'm not advocating this. I'm just saying it would be neat. Don't do this, health insurance companies. At some point, the health insurance companies, just like if you're going to smoke for 50 years, the life insurance companies are going to say, okay, your rates are going to skyrocket. At some point, and I think maybe health insurance does that too, because they ask you those questions when you have to sign up for health insurance. At some point, the health insurance companies might have to say, hey, can you get vaccinated and are you refusing? All right, well then we're tripling your rates. Because otherwise, it's going to cost us $2 million when one of you yahoos gets in the hospital. I don't know whether this guy was vaccinated or not. I don't know. They're doing a GoFundMe for $10,000. I feel terrible for the family. I do, quite honestly. I'm not, like very few people are out there getting COVID on purpose. Some people are, but I don't know anything about this guy's story. I don't know if he went out there and got COVID on purpose. 120 days is 3 months. He may not have had a chance to get the vaccine yet. Before that, because I don't have a timeline on this. I'm not blaming this guy. I feel terrible for the family. But what I feel more terrible about is a system that allows us to go into the hospital in the richest country on the planet by far and end up owing $2 million. You will never pay that up. That's bankruptcy time. That's it. There's no option there. Unless this guy's like a hedge fund manager. Texas is the least insured state in the U.S. Don't hold me to Texas. By the way, I can't guarantee that's it. But what I can guarantee is that my dad's waiting for me to call. So let me get off now. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to talk later today. I start shooting, and then we never know how long it's going to go. Same thing tomorrow. But I don't know my call time tomorrow. I'm going to try and get some time online, and I'm about to sneeze. So I'm going to let you guys go. Bye-bye. It got me.